What's going on, guys? It's your boy Lo. So I thought I'd make a little video about this new Smash 64 tier list that's currently in the works. For those of you who don't know, a bunch of ballots were sent out to a bunch of players for us to fill them out. I don't know exactly when they're gonna compile all the data and finalize it for it to be shared with the public, but I just wanted to give my ballot some time in a video. So for each character, I'm gonna have a couple bullet points. These bullet points aren't even necessarily like all encompassing or meant to be the most important. They're just things that I kind of want to talk about regarding each character for their placement. All right, so let's get started. First, I have the ballot rules, not the characters. So this is the ballot rules that were given to me. This form is for voting for the new Smash 64U version tier list. Answer the following question. Rank all 12 characters in viability from 1 to 12 in SSB 64U version singles. Assume the player is at a skill level good enough to make top 16 at Supernova. Take into account the current meta. So this is where like tier lists kind of get a little bit tricky, right? Because when I hear take account into the current meta, it kind of sounds more like a power ranking for characters. And that doesn't really sit well with me, only because if there's no representation for a character, how do we rank them, right? So I'm going to probably ignore take account into the current meta just a tiny bit and think more of how I feel the meta would be if we had more representation for specific characters, right? And you'll see more specifically why that matters for my ballot. A lot more probably than for others. Ties are allowed, for example, if I thought Kirby was the first best character and I thought DK and Link were tied for second, I would mark Kirby in first below, and I would mark both DK and Link in second below. So this one is another one that I don't really understand. Only because if you're doing a tier list, I don't think that we should be voting characters as tied for anything. That's just my opinion. I think numerically it makes more sense if we all rank them from 1 through 12. You compile that data, but maybe I'm just wrong and I don't know all the ins and outs. I've never made a tier list, so I could be completely off base for that. But for my ballot specifically, I'm not going to put anybody in the same number. All right, so let's start. Number 1, Pikachu. I don't think anybody is surprised by that one for me. I think Pikachu is the best. I've always thought Pikachu is the best. This is why I love playing Pikachu, because I don't feel like I have any excuse when I'm losing, right? Even versus a character like Yoshi, where a lot of people feel like Yoshi is kind of crushing Pikachu lately, or like Yoshi is just outright the best character. I think Yoshi can do it versus Pikachu can do it versus Yoshi. I also think that if it's not favored, it's either, you know, it's not one way too hard or the other. So like I really don't know. I think that it might be slightly favored Pikachu. I understand why people might think that it's heavily favored Yoshi because of the punish game. Like you never feel safe as Pikachu, right? But I think it's generally like not. It's pretty negligible. It could be even. It could be slightly favored Pika, slightly favored Yoshi. It's not that big of a deal, in my opinion. All right. So the reason the matchup feels so bad is because I think people play in spots that are poor for Pikachu. This is a big thing. When I watch Pikachu's play this matchup and they like complain about it, they are always playing either on the ground where Yoshi has way more horizontal movement, and if you get hit, you get tech chase to death, or tech chase into like up smash. You get fucked, right? Perfect land up smash, all that good stuff. Rather than taking like an air approach or a top platform approach like Wario does, or being very shifty. If you are going to play on the side plats like Nax does, very very quick to get out of those bad sticky situations. So I think that's a big reason why it feels so bad versus Yoshi. I think he beats everyone else solidly. I believe like Pika is so good at edge guarding, the best at edge guarding in the game, but also has a very good combo game. So, and then do we really need to talk about like, how broken Pika's recovery is? It's easily the best in the game. So, all right. Is there anything else that I did not cover? Right. So I do think that Pika's combo game is going to be more developed over the years go on versus Yoshi specifically. I feel like right now we we have only trended upward with Yoshi being really good versus Pika. We haven't really talked about Pika and like what Pika could do to improve versus Yoshi. I feel like people are just doomer right now, and that's not good. We gotta start labbing. All right, next up, I got Kirby. I know this is probably a little controversial. Everybody and their mom has been posting their list, and it's always been like Yoshi Pika, Pika Yoshi. Um, I have Kirby at second. I've even seen some people put Kirby as far as like fourth. I don't think you could put Kirby anywhere lower than fourth if without looking insane. I do disagree with third and fourth for Kirby, but it's not like absurd or anything. I really believe that Kirby is second. Um, so yeah, for my first bullet point, a lot of people value like how well you do versus Pikachu, which I understand, right? Yoshi has probably the best matchup versus Pika. Maybe the only winning matchup possibly that, versus Pika for any character. But what I do think is that Kirby does way better versus Pika than people actually give credit. I think that the neutral can be very tough for Pikachu, and I think that we don't have enough Kirby representation, right? So before we had Fukuru, and he was actually just destroying everybody. Like if you go back and watch some of those sets, all those things still hold up, and the way that he played was just different. Also, his record versus everybody, it's insane. Like he was Karaba before Karaba, in my opinion. Like as far as how dominant he was, you can argue now like Karaba's probably more dominant, obviously because of all his Supernova wins. But Fukuru was really him. So this is already it. Right. So here we go. I do think that Kirby beats everyone after Pikachu. So I think Kirby solidly beats Yoshi and Falcon, and I think it's Fox's worst matchup. These are all the characters that are below Kirby for me. And then Kirby also just destroys some of these low tiers, like Ness. I think you know, contrary to popular belief, I do not believe that Kirby is like even or close to even with Samus or Link. I think that Kirby just fucks them up. Uh, bu- 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 Yeah, I do think that like character representation is a big thing. So because we don't have Fukuru anymore, I think that's why people have such a bad opinion of Kirby. I'm really hoping that in the future we see more like Isaiah Kirby, Boomfan Kirby, because I think they could beat Karaba with Kirby. And I think if they start beating Karaba with Kirby, we're gonna hear less chitter chatter about how Yoshi is just undoubtedly the best character. I just don't agree. I would read all this stuff out, but I think I pretty much covered all of these things. One thing to note, though, is like I personally find Kirby to be pretty boring. I know, obviously it's not everyone. Some people really enjoy playing Kirby, but I think the general consensus for most people is that Kirby is pretty slow. He's hard to master, so he's not a character that gets picked up a lot, and because of that, we don't have a lot of representation. The fact that it's so difficult versus Pikachu as well, at like the mid to high level. Obviously, it's still tough at the very top, but at the mid to high level, it feels like almost impossible when you're just getting swatted away. But the thing with these top level Kirby's that we used to have is that they would recover so often that it felt like fuck, like I'm supposed to be killing you here on these edge guards, but then you're just coming back all of the time. Like go back and watch Boomfan versus Fukuru back in the day. Boom was not edge guarding him. Like pretty much at all. A lot of times he'd just be waiting because of how dangerous it would be to go out there and try to edge guard him. So it's just something that people don't really think about. I know everyone says Pika just smacks Kirby, but with the eye getting so much better, it's not as easy to kill Kirby. And with Kirby recovering as much as he does, it just makes it hard. Next, I have Yoshi. I don't think this is I think this is pretty standard here. If you put Pika and Kirby 1 and 2, Yoshi's probably coming next, right? I think he beats everyone below him. I think he's solidly, beating Falcon, Fox, Puff, and Ness. But in tournament and in a practical sense, those can be competitive matches, right? We saw, I don't know if Waxy took a game off of Karaba or if he got close. I don't know. I just remember seeing either Waxy or Quapples do okay versus Karaba, and these are players that are much worse than Karaba, right? They might do good for a game, and then Karaba adapts and he does way better. But let's say that the player who is playing one of these characters is as good as Karaba. Maybe that adaptation doesn't matter as much, and maybe we start seeing more competitive matches. However, I do think that as time goes on, Fox and Falcon will have much harder times versus Yoshi. I think it's already been getting harder, especially from the Falcon side. Like a couple years ago, when I would play Falcon versus Yoshi, I'd be like, "Oh, I have this shit in the bag. Like I'm fucking up every single Yoshi I play." Now I'm like, "Oh my god, I don't even want to play Falcon versus like a Yoshi that's like a whole tier skill, like a whole skill tier below me because of how good they are at armoring, how good they are at parrying. Like it's really getting harder. And the fact that Yoshi can edge guard as well as he does versus these characters rather than just straight up comboing them just makes it that much easier. And yep, just finished saying that. So we're gonna move on. Fourth, I have Captain Falcon. Beats everyone below him except for Fox. Um, I do believe that with good DI though, Falcon either goes even or probably wins that matchup versus Fox because Fox DI just doesn't really help him as much compared to Falcon, right? Especially like you get up smash or grabbed, you're kind of just dead. Whereas if you grab Falcon, he has a chance to try to recover, maybe get some ledge DI, maybe snap to ledge. But as Fox, it's just not the same. I put Falcon above Fox because he's the second biggest threat to Pikachu. I do think that Yoshi is the biggest threat to Pika. I do think that Pikachu beats Falcon. It's pretty close to even-ish, but the reason I give the edge to Pika and why I prefer playing from the Pika side in this matchup is because of the edge guards, right? You cannot DI some of these edge guards the way that you can, survive a combo maybe. Especially if you're like Pika, you survive a combo, an up air, up B combo, you're at 70, 80%, you can return with an up B. But if you're Falcon, you get hit with a back air off stage, you're kind of just dead. The neutral, I know some people argue Falcon is better in neutral. I don't really agree. I think it's very dangerous for Falcon a lot of the times. But yeah, that's pretty much it for that. Yeah, Falcon can have some competitive matches with like Mario, Puff, Ness. I do think there's a bit of a exaggeration when it comes to this, along the lines of like that these characters do well. Sometimes people talk about it. Like if Falcon plays correctly, I don't think that these characters really have much of a chance. But in a practical sense, in a tournament, top 16 of Supernova, I do think that these characters can make it competitive for Captain Falcon, which the characters above him don't really. That doesn't really happen as much. Maybe Yoshi a little bit with like, you know, actually Yoshi a little bit with all of these characters. So Yoshi and Falcon kind of struggle in the same ways, and by struggle I mean like, or I have to work for this a little bit. And we got Fox. I think this character is the easiest to rank. Obviously, one of my favorite characters. Mained him, dual mained him, all that good stuff. Mm, yeah, I do think that Fox dominates every character below him. I do think he wins versus Falcon. Outside of like if the Falcon has really good DI, this is like my comfort pick. If my Pika's not working versus Falcon, because of the way the Falcon is playing neutral, or like I can't like catch my footing. Fox is a very good neutralizer for me, in my opinion, just because of the way he plays. Yeah. So his worst matchup below him is probably Ness, and even that, I think he still wins solidly. The only thing with Ness is that Ness is very fast on the ground, and if you get hit with like an up air, up tilt, you can just get comboed or grabbed, and then it's pretty. It's not free for Ness to edgeguard Fox, but it can get bad sometimes. I think that Fox also does very well versus Mario or Puff, and those are the characters that are going to be right after. So you got Puff next. Puff has a lethal punish game, is why I put him sixth or her. I'm not sure if there's a gender for Puff. but I put Puff at 6. And the reason I have Puff above Mario is because I think that in a practical sense, Puff will just do better versus Pikachu, will do better versus Yoshi, will do better versus Falcon. I think that the only character that maybe Mario does, I don't know, Mario even does bad versus Kirby. So I think Kirby's probably Mario's worst matchup. So like all of these matchups, I think Puff kind of does better, except for maybe Fox, right? Mario does better versus Fox, but even then, Fox kind of dominates the neutral. So that little bit extra that Mario doesn't do enough for me to not put Puff above Mario when Puff can kill Pika with one hit, right? Said all this. Yeah, beats all the characters below her except DK, right? I know that a lot of people think Samus beats Puff, or that, Luigi beats Puff, or maybe, it's close. I think Puff beats all of these characters, and I don't think that it's really that controversial. Like if you actually play these characters and play the game, like if you nair Samus, what the fuck is Samus supposed to be doing, right? Obviously, Samus has back air, but that's just a straight hit. Like you're not killing Puff a lot of the time with that. You guys can comment and give me more info on why you think this is not true. But my opinion, Puff beats everybody below them except for DK. And we got Mario. There's no world where Mario is above Puff. And the reason I say this is that Puff does too well versus Pika, even though Puff Pika is a brutal matchup. Mario is fucking ass. Mario sucks versus Kirby, sucks versus Pika. And then even though Mario can do damage like gimping Falcon and Fox, like the neutral is so bad in those matchups. Obviously, Yoshi is probably like Mario's like best matchup of the top 3. But even that, like we've seen how those matches can end up like looking after the Yoshi plays a couple games and starts adapting to the Mario. Doesn't have kill power. A lot of the times you have to start Mario's combos with like a down air. You can DI out of that. You can get like nair grabbed afterwards, but probably not an up air chain. You can DI down, which makes up air very hard to combo. And you always need it to like lead perfectly into an up smash if you're going to kill. So that being said, like at 0%, is very, very difficult for Mario to kill a lot of these characters. he beats the characters below him and can sometimes have competitive matches with characters above him. So that's what I was talking about with Yoshi, with Falcon, with Fox. It can be competitive, but it's still pretty bad. Yeah, and this is what I was talking about earlier. So Puff can definitely, punish game her way out of some games and some sets, but Mario really doesn't have that in his toolkit. So next, Donkey Kong, the leader of the bunch. All right. Possibly the hardest character to rank for me. I initially thought Link or even Ness, but then I thought about it more and I realized DK has the best matchup versus Pikachu out of the 3. So I do think that DK Pika is surprisingly like a pretty good matchup for a character as low tier as DK. Number 8th in the game. That's pretty bad. But the Pika matchup's actually not that bad. The Yoshi DK matchup is pretty brutal. So is the Falcon matchup, but you can gimp Falcon, you can gimp Fox. Yeah. I do think DK is the best low tier. Like if you were to have a low tier tournament, I think DK is the best. I know a lot of people play Link. Sorry, not Link. A lot of people play Luigi or play Samus. I think that DK kind of just outranges them, and it makes it very, very hard for them. And the fact that he has such a good grab is also, it makes it tough for them. His recovery, while not the best, takes much more finesse to edge guard against, especially when you have good DI. All these things combined to put him at 8. So if you guys recall when Boom played KD3 and Robert at Frame, he ended up winning that tournament. I do think a lot of that is attributed to how good of a punish game DK can have and how much you can return. KD3 definitely edge guard Boom a little bit better than someone like Robert at that time. This was a couple years ago now at this point. But it just goes to show like a character like DK is not just going to get thrown off stage or hit off stage and die every time, like a character like Link or like Ness, which are coming now. Next is Link. I'm a big Link believer. I also put him at 8 above DK. This is supposed to say 9 above DK. I don't know why it says that. But yeah, I have him at 9. Oh, I almost put him at 8 above DK. Okay, that makes more sense. So yeah, I have him at 9. I always loved playing Link as a kid, so like I play Link a lot. If you ever play me in friendlies, I will bust out the Link. I believe his neutral is better than Ness, and his punish game is only slightly worse. I do think Link, his neutral is better. The boomerangs, the bombs, his down air protects him from, if he's above you and he's playing the platforms, to land with down air is very nice. Keeps him pretty safe. So while Link is very slow on the ground, his jump squat's not that great. If you play the platforms and you protect yourself as you're coming down properly, I think Link is actually decent. And by slightly worse punish game, I mean, Ness has a tether. Sorry, not a tether. Ness doesn't have a tether grab like Link, which makes his combo game a lot stronger and more consistent in some ways, but not so much in other ways, which I'll talk about on my 4th point. So the recoveries are comparable, but I would give the edge to Link on recovery game, as its up B hitbox can be a pain to deal with, depending on the position as he's recovering. So if you play versus a really good Link, and you throw them off stage, they will react to where you are, and they will up B properly so that they stuff you out and then grab ledge. If you're at knockdown percent, then, once they hit you with that up B, they're coming back onto stage. If you're Ness, you can't really do that, right? You can do some shine stalls. You can like float slightly and make it a little bit ambiguous as to when you're going to down air or just grab the ledge. But it's generally pretty unsafe for Ness to be recovering off stage if you throw him off. Like, I am very confident I can kill Ness like 95% of the time when I throw Ness off stage. Whereas with Link, I'm like, oh, fuck. I didn't throw him far enough. Now he can just up B, and I can't really out-prioritize his hitbox. This is kind of what I said here. Ness. So I will talk a little bit about Link's punish game, but in this bullet point, because it's right after. Ness could be higher if he didn't have such terrible matchups versus Pikachu, Kirby, and Jigglypuff, right? I think that Pikachu absolutely smokes Ness. I think, Frey has kind of traumatized some of these people. So they put, Ness maybe higher, or they think the Ness Pika matchup isn't as bad as it is. I think Ness really, really struggles versus Pika. Maybe just as hard as versus like a Puff or like a Falcon, or like, not Falcon. I guess Ness does better versus Falcon, but Kirby definitely is the worst. But Pika's right there, man. I think it's really brutal. Yeah, so the fact that Frey has done so well, I think, is more of a testament to how good he is, not really the character. This is what I was talking about earlier. I believe while Link's punish game is slightly worse, Ness's punish game is more susceptible to downgrade over time due to better DI and escapes from tech traps. Right? So like if you think about Link's combos, they're all, for the most part, something into, nair or up air to continue the chain, right? These combos, especially the up airs, are pretty solid and they're not going anywhere. You can maybe start DIing them very high up so that Link can't reach, but Link is just going to up B you anyways and send you off stage. So if you don't die, if you get sent off stage a little bit earlier, you might not die. It's still pretty good for Link. Now, as far as with Ness, his combos a lot of times rely on tech chasing, repeated down airs, and things of that nature. So if you start DIing off, which a lot of people already have, DI off, tech away after you DI off the platform, Ness can't follow up, right? Players like Frey have definitely made innovations to this. Like if he sees somebody DIing out, he'll up tilt, bring them back in to, then down air them off into the tech again, which is really good, but it still doesn't solve the problem of people's DI getting better and better and better, and Ness's combo game just getting worse with time. I think eventually, you know, Link's combo game will be better than Ness's. So that's why I have Link up here at 9 instead of Ness. Neutral's better. Combo game is going to be more consistent eventually. Next I have Luigi. This one was probably the second hardest for me. As far as decision making, for the longest time I had Luigi ranked at 12th. But I do believe, like, in a practical sense, a practical tournament situation, I think Luigi is just going to be better. His punish game is just overall better than Samus's punish game. And I don't know if, like, his neutral game being so pitiful, I do think it's like the worst neutral game in the world, but I don't know if it's going to be enough. Samus doesn't have the greatest neutral either. Honestly, if you just wait for Samus and wait for her to attack, you could just punish her a lot of the time. She's so floaty in the air. The one thing that she has is kind of her back air, which is her saving grace, but even that's just like a stray aerial. It's not going to combo into anything. Down air is not that great at low percent. Luigi having a normal grab that he can utilize after hit confirms is also huge. No true combos for Samus. Ultimately, what it came down for me is, while I think neither is possible, I think I would see Luigi winning a Super Major before a Samus, just because of that raw punish game. How you can just catch fire, down air, up air, which is DIable. Don't get me wrong, but at this far into the list, their punish games are going to have flaws, right? I also think we'd see more Luigis just in general at top 16 for a Supernova, rather than Samus. Samus has like such brutal matchups, and while Luigi does also, they rely more on you respecting Luigi. You have to still respect Luigi, right? And a lot of times in tournaments, you see characters that are bad like Luigi, and you're like, I'm just gonna kind of run this character over, and then you get fucked up and you get beat up really quickly because Luigi's punish game is so good. And finally, we have Samus. It really does hurt to put Samus this low. I always played her growing up. I played Samus, I played Link, I played Donkey Kong, all growing up a lot. But it's basically, everything that I mentioned before. Let me get back to this slide. No punish game, really. At the end of the day, it's tech traps the entire time into like a raw back air. You can do some tech chasing with like dash attack, but there's no true tech chasing with Samus, especially on the ground. On the platform, sure, you can do the plat drop, down air, you can set those kind of things up, but then people have also gotten better at DIing that. Oops. Forgot to delete next post, blah, 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 blah. All right. Yeah, so that's pretty much it. This is the final ballot right here. We got Pika number 1, Kirby number 2, Yoshi, Falcon, I don't know why their names are blurred out, Fox, Jigglypuff, Mario, Donkey Kong, Link, Ness, Luigi, Samus. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section. I tried to stay in line with my line of thinking as much as I could, but you have to understand also things get a little bit tricky when it comes to tier lists. Then it's kind of like a power ranking. Then we have to think about the meta, but then we have to think about theoretically. So I try to do my best with my line of thinking. Let me know what you think of my ballot. Let me know where you disagree, where you actually do agree, and if anything interesting caught your mind. But that's it for me. This video is going to be around 30 minutes long, and my throat hurts from talking so much. So thank you, everybody. I hope you enjoyed the video. Peace out.